Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 500th episode of the POZcast, where I bring you the best and the brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career. Folks, my guest today is Geoffrey Rogow, a longtime journalist, newsroom leader, and author with more than 2 decades in financial journalism. During his time at the Wall Street Journal, Geoffrey reported from 4 continents and more than a dozen countries, earning awards from the Gerald Loeb Awards to Society of Professional Journalists and Investigative Reporters and Editors. He went on to become the journal's longest-serving investing editor and built and led the work and life section, turning coverage of personal finance, tech, health, careers, and consumer behavior into one of the most widely read sectors of the paper. He recently joined BBC Studios as their executive editor. Congrats on that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Today, Geoffrey is the founder of After Treatment, a news platform dedicated to improving the lives of more than 20 million cancer survivors in the United States. And his upcoming book, I'm Alive, Now What?, explores the complex and often overlooked reality of life after treatment. We have a lot to get into today. We're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to have an open and honest conversation for folks out there who are following my journey. You guys know what's going on. And anyone out there, we're going to get into it in a little bit. This is going to be deeply personal. I'm excited to have him here. Geoffrey Rogow, welcome to the POZcast.
Wow, what a great intro. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm really excited.
People always say, like, well, can you just package it up and sell it to me? I'm like, you know what? We could do that. So first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about your journey before treatment. We're all somebody before treatment. We're all somebody after treatment. You, father, journalist, builder, editor, and leader. Who were you at your core before, and did that change?
I mean, the great thing is that this is such an easy answer, which is everything you just described is something I was after treatment and not remotely before. I was like a lot of people before. I was a 20-year-old making mistakes, living in New York City. I was also living in Sydney, Australia during my 20s. Felt infallible, felt invincible, was doing crazy things. I think my career ambitions at that time were to be a world-class reporter and to be known all over the world for my writing, and to sort of like drive myself to the top of the peaks of my profession, and to have a really great time living in awesome cities. And my life story really 180'd at that moment of diagnosis, that moment of like sort of initial trauma and then the processing of it.
So if you don't mind sharing your story briefly for everybody.
Sure. So as I said, I lived in New York in my 20s and then moved to Sydney, Australia for the Journal for 3 years. We come back. And about 6 months to a year after we come back, I started feeling really run down. I was having trouble just like even getting up the stairs. I saw a bunch of doctors.
And you're like, I'm healthy. How old were you at the time?
At the time, I was 30 years old.
You're like, I should be fine.
I should be
So
totally
you go to the
fine.
doctors.
And I played sports in college. I was still playing at the time in a men's league baseball team in Central Park. And just, I couldn't even do the simple things. And luckily this had happened, what was really happened was the winter. So it wasn't during baseball season. I was like, what is going on here? I went to, I was taking boxing classes. And I remember like I had to just stop a workout. I'd never, ever stopped a workout mid-workout.
Just felt exhausted. Something's not right.
Something was clearly not right. But like a lot of cancer survivors, a lot of people diagnosed, there was a holy crap moment. That holy crap moment was I woke up in the middle of the night and my head was like a balloon. It was enormous. And it turns out I had a blood clot in my neck. So at the time we were living on the east side, pretty close to NYU. My wife, I wake up, I tap her on the shoulder. I'm like, something's wrong. She's like, yeah, you look like crap. And so we rushed over to NYU. We saw a doctor at NYU and she says, do you have a blood clot? We don't know why. And that was the first time somebody took an x-ray. So for 3 or 4 months of seeing doctors, I'd had an endoscopy, I'd had these procedures. No one had just done a simple x-ray. They did the x-ray and they said, you have this massive tumor. It was 14 by 12 centimeters right in the middle of your chest. We need to figure out what it is. And the two funny stories of that moment were, one, I found out later the emergency room doctor who had diagnosed me thought I was a goner. She had like told 2 of her friends.
She had that look on her face.
She had that look on her face that like, this is not going to go well. I'm glad she didn't tell me at the time. That seems like something you can keep to yourself. And then the second thing was, that night, an oncologist came in. She actually wound up being my oncologist in the end. We had this great rapport with her. And my wife works at NYU. My brother's in medicine. The two of them tried to find the right oncologist and all that stuff.
Right.
And we wound up choosing the person
Right
I
where you
met the first
started.
night, right where I started. Her name's Karen Hankloff. She's the best. She's actually also a musician, so she's like all the boxes of creative and smart and funny and a terrific doctor. Those things you find in New York, and it's just like great. And she says to me, she says, "Look, where it is, it's going to be one of three things. One of them is not a big deal. One of them you'll survive, but it's not going to be super fun. And the third one, you'll be dead in 3 months."
Whew.
And then was like, "I'll see you tomorrow." So like I was expected to sleep
No
with
way.
that information. And I was put in a room with a drug addict who, while that's weird, he had such this crazy night where he got kicked out by security, snuck himself back into the hospital. That was actually
It was like you're sleeping anyway, so you need some entertainment.
exact.
Right.
That's exactly right. It was like a live movie of this like guy trying to, Jason Bourne his way out of the hospital and then back in.
Going through withdrawals, cravings.
Yep. All that stuff was my roommate. It was super funny in retrospect. And then next morning I found out we did the surgery, and about 2 days later I found out it was number 2. So I went through 4.5 months of chemotherapy. For your listeners, my regimen was a DA-REPOC, which is dose adjusted REPOC. Each of those letters is a different drug in chemotherapy. And luckily for the past, I was put in remission 6-7 months later, and I've been there ever since.
So what were you diagnosed with?
I had a primary mediastinal non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a fancy way of saying lymphoma in the middle of my chest. It's prominent with women, much more common with women than men, but it shows up typically between the ages of 28 and 42.
Well, for folks out there, and it's such a similar story because we both are diagnosed. He has non-Hodgkin's. I have Hodgkin's. As Larry David said, I have the good one. And what's crazy about this whole thing is my mass was center mass too, right over here. And for anyone who's been following my journey, a little bit different. I wouldn't have known about it unless I went to the cardiologist when I turned 45. And the only reason I went to the cardiologist was because my brother-in-law died a few months earlier of a massive heart attack. And I didn't want that to happen to me. I wanted to be there for my kids. And I went to the cardiologist, and it was routine scan. And he comes back and he said, "Listen, cholesterol's a little bit high. We could take care of that. Your blood work is fine. Your heart is in great shape, but the scan shows this strange mass over here." And I'm a bit concerned about that. It could be something as benign as thymosis. And for anyone out there who's not familiar, there's a gland over here that usually dissolves after puberty. And some people, it stays with you. But the mass, it's not a full tumor, it's a gelatinous kind of mass. It was interwoven with all the veins and arteries, the big mammary vein artery that goes through over here. And he's like, "This is something you should check out." And that's when my heart dropped. And I don't know about you. Not that I'm a pessimistic person, but sometimes I feel negative energy. Sometimes I feel like I absorb negative energy, especially when it's around me. Maybe it's because of the things I went through in my life. My wife kept saying everything's fine, but I knew in my heart that something wasn't right. Did you have any of those feelings? Like something really was wrong, and like this could be because you listen. Anyone who has cancer, you never like that feeling when it comes. You usually don't. I mean, you had a sign. I had nothing going on, but what did you feel inside?
I mean, honestly, nothing. Like I did not have those feelings. For me, I was like, I'll be fine. Like even as even as I was unable to walk upstairs uh, in my office, I remember not being able to really go up them without like leaning on the rail. I really was, everything's gonna be fine. Like whatever it is, it's like a small thing. Not surprisingly, I'm a total hypochondriac now. It's like that great Mike Birbiglia sketch. He was like, "I told you I was going to have rickets." Now, like anything happens, and I immediately go to the conclusion. But I was not. I went into this really feeling infallible, and like whatever it is, it'll be fixable. It'll be fine. And it took the blood clot for me to do anything, to really do anything about it.
But was the blood clot related to the mass? Okay.
Yes. The mass caused the blood clot. So they were all connected. So it was like a blood clot that saved my life.
That's crazy. My doctor said to me, she said, "You probably you probably have had this for years, undiagnosed for years. You could go on until, God knows, until it reared its ugly head." And for me, I went through 3 biopsies that came back inconclusive before I went in for thoracic surgery in February of 2025, where I went to NYU with the top thoracic surgeon. And they had to turn me on my side. I went to CyberKnife. I have like 4 like gang bullet wounds over here. And that's when it came out. I want to talk for a moment about, it's not like the movies, right? When the doctor comes in. "I'm sorry, sir, you have cancer." For me, it was very weird and clinical, where the doctor texted me and he's like, hey, let's chat. And then I get on the phone. He's like, yeah, it's stage 3A Hodgkin's lymphoma. You should go see the oncologist. That was it. What was your experience? Like the moment.
Well, I mean, for me, it was a little different because when they saw the mass, there was no possibility that could be anything other than cancer. So like when the X-ray came back, the question was not, do you have cancer? The question was, what cancer is it?
And how far along is it?
And how far along is it? And so ours was kind of like the movies because the emergency room doctor was like, you have a mass in your chest, it's cancer. Full stop.
Right.
We need to go figure out what it was. So that actually weirdly, that is a huge anomaly for me. Was like I did have that like movie moment. It was just a lot of crying and
it's not always the oncologist. It's sometimes the doctor before the oncologist, right?
No, it was the emergency room doctor.
Right. So I'm saying
Yeah.
it's not always the oncologist who's diagnosing
Yes.
the first doctor.
Yeah.
What was those moments afterwards for you like when you got that news?
I mean, it's just a lot of crying. It was a lot of like, at that point you're 30 and it's pretty depressing. And I think one of the things that first night was obviously nothing nothing positive happened. I did get lucky, and one of the things that you talked about being a father. Maybe the next morning, I had the surgery the next morning. I remember coming out of surgery. I have the same thing. I've got the 4 bullet holes here, and pretty quickly after I was through surgery and recovering, I got lucky where I can't remember who it was, but somebody said like, you need a sperm bank now. And so it was this, to me, that moment was a really big moment, not because of the sperm banking, but the idea of, oh crap, if there's things that I think are part of an adult life that I want to accomplish, I've got 4 days to accomplish them. Like, we are starting chemotherapy on Thursday. It is now Sunday. If you want to have a family, you better do that now. And so that was easier. Like that wasn't easy.
But the thought
of it like really rattled me. That was that moment of you need a sperm bank was the first time that I had sort of like, not only is cancer going to potentially kill me, but even if I survive this, my life is now fundamentally changed forever. And for me, that was a big shift moment, was this, we need to do something because no matter what, you're not escaping this clean.
Let's pause on that moment. There's 2 things I want to unpack there. One is that thought of, I have no choice. I have to go through this. And it's not a choice because it's either you go through the chemo or you just become weird experimental thing that's probably not going to work, or you die. And for me, there wasn't a choice. And that was a hard thing for me. The idea of the first time in my life, I didn't have a choice. The thought of I have to do something that I don't want to do. I have no idea what I'm going to go through. I've seen it in people go through it. I've seen friends and family go through it. I've seen it in the movies. And obviously you don't want to go through it. You don't know what's going to happen, but you have to. That part was really hard for me. The fact that I knew, and there was a lot of time between there was 6 weeks between when I got my diagnosis and when I started chemo. How tight was that window for you?
4 days. And so I think that really makes a difference.
I had a lot of thinking.
I had no time for thought. And I think and that's one thing, we'll get to this in a little bit. For my book, I talked to 270 people, many of them survivors. And the one thing that comes across when you talk to all of us in our situation is, no 2 stories are the same. Nobody's got the same experience. The only 2 things everyone can agree on is that their relationship with time and BS has changed, but it's changed differently.
Yeah.
But everyone's like, what I think about my own time has changed.
Oh, big time.
My ability to handle other people's BS has shifted. Everything else, like everyone disagrees.
It's perspective.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that for a second. And I want to get to the part about when they came to me, and I was at a different stage in life. I was almost 46 at the time, a year and a half ago. And they said to me, do you plan on having more kids? And my wife and I actually laughed. And I said to her, I go, does this mean I don't need to get a vasectomy? And the whole room was laughing at that too. And they said, well, it's not 100%. It certainly the chemo kills the sperm, but it's not 100%. They're like, it pretty much does a number on it. And I'm just like, but you don't know for sure, do you? And we kind of like made like a lighthearted comment about it. But you think about that too, especially folks who are younger, men who are younger, women too. I think it kills the eggs too. that idea of how is this going to affect all these future plans that have all these dreams? And then even if you harvest the sperm and the eggs, that's not even guaranteed to work.
So yeah, I mean,
Did you have children before at the time?
I did not have children at
Okay.
the time. In fact, and there's a couple things I'll say about children that I think are important for any listener. One, you have to make that decision then. Your options of waiting on that decision make the ability to have children so much harder that you really have to take advantage of that window. Shockingly, 50% of young adults diagnosed with cancer are not told by their doctor of their fertility options before treatment begins.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. It's a stat that came out from Vanderbilt University 2 years ago.
Shouldn't that be standard operating procedure?
It is. And so I will say what's good. It was a big wake up call for the industry. Now many hospitals are changing their procedures and protocols. It was a shocking report from Vanderbilt, and it has now created this everything from new intake forms, new conversations, new people in the room. It was like a huge aha moment for oncology that is worth pausing for a second to note that it happened. The second thing I'll say on fertility and those who are survivors and going through it, it's amazing how many people want to help you. There are so many organizations, from Livestrong to Fertility IQ. There is money, there are resources, and there are people who want to help you have children after cancer, and you should really take advantage of it because they know what they're doing. It is hard enough to have children today.
To begin with.
With this change in your life, it is so much harder. Use those resources. I know it can be hard to ask for help, particularly in something so personal as having a child. Do it. The third thing I'll say is to give yourself the space to think about it. I spent a lot of time with people who didn't want kids when they went into when they were diagnosed, didn't go through those steps, and regretted it 10 years later.
Pause on that for a second. Anyone out there who's listening, just keep that in mind.
That's, it could be tough, but if you have a family member, a younger family member who's saying, I don't want to go through that, I don't want to do the things, you're not going to make the decision for them, but make sure they're thinking about it. The second thing is, if you get through treatment and you're thinking about having children, think about the right time. For me, I was still very worried about keeling over and dying for a couple of years. So we waited 5 years after treatment. I wanted to be several years out of treatment where we knew I wasn't.
You were in the clear.
I was in the clear, and I wasn't, even if I was going to survive, I wasn't going to go through another round of chemotherapy, another round of treatment. And so we waited that period of time. For breast cancer survivors, there is a sweet spot in the post-treatment area that is about 2.5 years in, depending on a couple of the drugs they're on. Having that conversation early with your oncology team to make sure you take advantage of that sweet spot and you're not too late. And so the only thing, the last thing I'll say about fertility is that, like, I am amazed at how many different wrinkles there are. If it is something on your mind, talk to your doctor, talk to your spouse, talk to your parents, talk to those around you. It is, I spent 2 hours with an ethicist in the UK whose entire focus on whether it's ethically appropriate for cancer survivors to have children.
Go on.
And the idea in this is, life is hard. Is it ethically responsible to potentially not be around to parent your child?
Is it selfish?
Is it selfish? Is it because you want it and it was not best for the kids? And
I guess there's lots of factors that go into it.
there's a million factors, and she's not answering it.
This is just
for
30,000
everyone.
foot
Exactly.
things to think about.
But there's someone who does this. Like, this is what she does for a living, which is crazy to me. There's somebody that's that narrow in it.
Who signs up for that? That is absolutely insane. I want to talk for a moment about tribes in your inner circle. What was your communication tree? What did that look like in the early days?
So I'm very lucky. My wife is a nurse. At that point, she was a nurse manager. She was running interventional radiology at NYU. So she speaks the language. She knows people. Is at the hospital, is getting treatment. And so my church, my people was my wife. It was, and then in where I am now, I regret that a little bit. It was a lot on her shoulders. And it was basically just my wife and our cat, Gary, at the time, who really were just sort of there.
Emotional support cat.
And, there were things that I think that created some scars. And, I think I'm now more comfortable using villages than I was then. And I think that's important. The mistake my tribe at that moment was my wife. We went into our like cocoon and we dealt with it together. And I think that's you have to learn your crisis language as a couple, as a spousal, and that was us learning our crisis language. And I think that was really important, where we learned a rhythm of, and we had a, for lack of a better word, we had a dry run 5 months before we got married. The weekend we were supposed to get married was Sandy. So Sandy took out our hotel venue, or took out our hotel, took out our venue, took out our caterers, took out our band, took out everything. And we had to replan our wedding in 3 days. And we learned in that moment how to navigate things and how to communicate and what not to tell the other person because it's going to get in the way.
That's typically the most important thing that through 18 years together, 16 years marriage, I'm still working on. I'm sure you are too.
Oh, I'm sure I'm going to get yelled at tonight about it. And I'm going to deserve it. Like, it's not,
we always deserve it.
And so I think we had these crises. That was one. We moved to Australia and back, and those are not easy moves. And those gave us a rhythm, and we got into our rhythm. We then go through cancer, and we have our sort of language together, and it worked, and it got us through, and it was helpful. But my lesson, and sort of through therapy, through our communication, I've sort of learned, like, the one mistake that I have processed and thought about a lot and would improve is to grow my village a little bit more.
That's an interesting one.
What about you? Yeah. What about you? What did you learn? What did you learn about crisis languages and villages and the way for you to be supportive but not overburden anybody?
This is a tough one. I'm an oversharer. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't hold a lot back. My wife is the opposite. In the best way. She's born in Minsk, Belarus. Strong Eastern European women who have that kind of shield up all the time. They protect themselves. They put themselves in front of others to protect them. And I think emotionally, she put up a shield in the beginning. And for me, initially, that caused a bit of conflict because I almost needed and wanted and expected her to be a little bit more caring and empathetic. And that actually caused a bit of conflict early on that we had to work through. And I realized quickly that she was doing it to protect herself and protect me. And I also realized that, yes, she is always there for me emotionally. But I also had a lot of other people in my tribe. I'm blessed that I have incredible group of guy friends that are literally my best friends, and they were there for me a different way emotionally than she was and she could be, and that actually enabled me to take some of that everyday burden off of her. In the same breath, I couldn't have gone through what I went through without her. And at the time, a little different place than you. I just finished treatment in September of 25. My kids are 13 and 7. And so she needed to be there for them. And she needs to help me navigate how we're going to talk to them about it and how we're going to handle it. But the communication part, there was days, and I didn't know what I was going to go through. And I said to her, there's going to be days when I'm feeling great through treatment. Anyone who goes through chemo, it's a really strange thing. My treatment was AVD plus immunotherapy, and I don't know if it's standard practice, but I was pumped through a ton of steroids when I got chemo every time. And I literally felt like Batman or Superman. I was in every way possible. I actually felt as the day I got treatment, I was a little down during the actual chemo, but then the next day I would feel better than I've ever felt, and then I would crash hard. I went every 2 weeks for 6 months. I went through 6 cycles, twice each. I went through 12 treatments. And I remember the second day after treatment, I would feel great, and then I would crash, and it would physically crash. And it was at that time when I never knew. It was one of those words, fatigue. You hear about it, and maybe sometimes when you hear someone who's going through fatigue, you kind of like roll your eyes a little bit, be like, they're just tired. But when you go through chemo, you actually understand what fatigue means. And anyone out there, fatigue means it. When I was at the bottom point, the lowest, the valley of chemo, which is about 5 days after treatment for 3 or 4 days, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I was done for the day. I couldn't get out of bed. And she started to understand the rhythm, but it took a few treatments. And it really didn't really get too emotional, deep emotional, until the hair loss. Let's talk about the hair loss for a little bit. Now, I need to just set the table here. At what age, if you don't mind me asking, at what age did you start to lose your hair? I want to level set it. We have a little bit different scenario. And now my hair is. We'll get to this in a minute.
I had the most beautiful.
This is important, guys. This is important.
Beautiful, luscious hair until the day I started chemo. Or so like when I went into it at 30, like my hair was perfect. And so it took, my chemotherapy started in March. My hair was gone by the end. Like, well, we shaved my head the second flakes came out. So like we didn't wait for it to start. I didn't want it like coming off in the shower. Like the second I had one little piece, I was like, all right, we're done. We're done. So there's some great photos of me with the cat and a mohawk for like an hour. Or whatever's the Jewish equivalent of a mohawk, a Jewhawk.
Right.
It was like, a little curly. And then, or very curly. It maybe about 9 months to a year after chemo, it started coming back, but it was very thin. And it was so thin that it was just a different person's hair. And within 3 years, 4 years, it really just was clear that I'm just going to need to shave my head. The hair's not coming back. And so, for me, it's funny. A couple interesting things. One, maybe 2 months in, 2 years into it, when it was clear that like it was not going to come back, I talked to my oncologist, like, hey, can I do Rogaine? Can I do some kind of treatment? She's like, no, you have a blood cancer.
Right. You're not going on any hormone, anything.
Right.
Hard pass on that.
So all that's done. And then, it's funny. People come with all sorts of solutions, because that's the big thing about cancer is everyone tells you the story about their relatives. Like, well, my cousin, his hair didn't go back and they went to Turkey. My cousin went to LA and
everyone has a story, and it's coming from a good place, but that's a whole other thing to talk about.
A whole other thing, but it's a thing. And look, it's a thing. And so
because people want to relate, they want to be empathetic, they want to be relatable.
And they want to talk. I also like to talk, so that's I can appreciate that. To me, my hair looks like crap, and it drives me nuts. But it's also a really good reminder of what matters and doesn't. So like at this point, I miss my old hair, but I actually like.
It's low maintenance.
It's low maintenance, and it's a good reminder every morning to take a pause and be thankful as hell.
What matters most.
Yeah.
So I talk about my hair journey a little bit, and my hair's always just been the classic Jufro for whatever. And for whatever reason, God was looking down upon me before I was diagnosed. I decided to grow my hair out. I've always wanted to grow my hair out, and I grew it into a man bun, and it was not well received by friends and family, but I didn't really give a shit because I liked it, and I've always wanted to have long hair, and I loved it, and it was thick and luscious and everything. And I remember one of the first thoughts I had with chemo was, oh shit, I'm gonna lose my hair. And I was starting to prepare myself mentally for it, but you have no idea what that really means, because it's not just your hair, it's all your hair. And when I mean all your hair, I mean all of your hair.
Eyebrows and eyelash.
I'm going to get to that.
The value of that is really
unbelievable. I'm going to get to eyebrows and eyelashes in a moment here. So, because this is where I'm going with this one. So for me, it was, they told you, they're like, it'll probably start after your third treatment. And literally on cue after the third treatment, it was April, and I couldn't travel. And my wife took the kids down to Florida over Passover break to see my parents. And I'm home alone for like 10 days. And I turned my kitchen into a pot brownie factory. It was amazing. I was cranking music. I was actually feeling great. I was actually like kind of having a little bit of like a bachelor pad in my own house for 10 days. And I went into the shower, and it was literally out of a movie. I was washing my hair, and the clumps started falling out. And I literally took it and I smashed it against the wall. And like all of a sudden I just started putting my hand to the wall, and it was just like the wall was covered with hair. And I like sat down in the shower and I cried. And I think that's when it hit me. Like, shit, I'm going through something right now. And I called our friend who's a hairdresser, and she didn't know what we were going through. And I was like, Lisa, I explained to her, I'm like, I need you to come over. And she cut my hair super short. I didn't want to shave it at that time. And then eventually, it fell out. But for me, the absolute hardest part, which no one prepares you for, and is losing your eyebrows and your eyelashes. Because it's one thing, I've had lots of friends that even in college were going bald, but they were still good looking guys. They were young looking. When you don't have your eyebrows, and I was looking at pictures of myself on the train on the way in today, you're an alien. And it was hard for me, but I still went out, and I wear glasses, but I still went out in public. Was it hard for you to go out during that time?
Yeah, we had it's funny you mentioned, so I had one of my best friends got married like in the middle of it. So this big, beautiful wedding. looking out over Manhattan. I remember going to this wedding and just feeling like a freak. Like I just felt, and it was with someone who's been one of my closest friends for 2 decades.
Like a freak.
And a bunch of other our friends who could have been more supportive and could have been more great, but you'd look at your pictures and you're just this. It was just
It's not you.
It's not you. And at the time too, and you mentioned that while the steroids do make you feel great, they also make you feel really puffy. So like in addition to
Moon face.
in addition to the like the hairlessness, the like moon face matching with hairlessness just felt so weird to me. And I hated it. I remember that.
Hated it.
I remember that was the least I'm, Justin, I'm sorry if you're listening to this because I love you to death. Like that was the most uncomfortable moment of my time period, just because like I just felt, and I felt great that day. Like physically, I felt great, but mentally, it was probably one of the harder days.
Similar, went to our first public together out for a bar mitzvah literally 2 weeks after I finished treatment, and I was at the most hairless. And I remember I was wearing glasses, and I call it my cancer beanie. I have a couple of them. I had like my fancy one. I had the one I wore during treatment, and it was end of the summer. It was pretty hot, So I had like my lightweight one and everything. And I look at those pictures, and people are like, "Oh, you look great. So happy to see you here." And you look at those pictures, and you're like, "That's just not me."
It's not even you.
It's not. And you look at this, like I look at my peak pictures of like peak chemo as a reminder of, and I kept reminding myself this, and my wife did a great job. This isn't you. Right now, what you're going through, this is not who you are. This is who you are.
Yeah. And it's funny when you look back at pictures, there's moments I really remember and I can it's like it happened yesterday. I can touch it. And then there's moments that it was somebody else. It was like that experience was some wholly other person. I don't remember that time. I don't remember that moment. I don't remember anything about it.
That's an interesting concept there for a moment. The who you are before and after. I'm still me. You're still you. We still have the same personality, bullshit who we are. But you mentioned a couple of things. One, the concept of putting time in perspective. And the other one, your tolerance for bullshit. Let's start with that one too. Elaborate a little bit on how going through treatment affected your tolerance of your own bullshit, other people's bullshit. I mean, I went full Larry David, but I don't know about you, but
it's interesting. So, my tolerance for other people's bravado and bullshit really, really changed. In fact, I leave my book with this anecdote. I remember about 2 years after, 18 months after treatment, I'm in a bar that's actually like right around the block.
We're on 42nd Street, Times Square for anyone. Welcome to Times Square Studios. Thank you.
What's it called? The
Raging Bull.
The rum room, the gin room, the something like that. It's right up here on maybe 46th. And the guy at the table next to me, 30-year-old guy, was talking about his weekend. It's like, I was doing these drugs, I was drinking this food, I was eating this food, I was drinking, everything that you're not supposed to be doing. And how he's like, and I still feel amazing. And he just like would not, it was like he was poking me with a stick for an hour. It was just a guy at a table next to me. And I remember I looked at my friend Joe and I was like, I gotta get out of here. This guy's gonna drive me nuts. Like,
triggered.
Why did it happen to me and not this fuck?
Right.
And so I just like walked out and left the room. And I actually hysterically, I was so pissed off. I put my headphones on. I'm running down in Times Square, and I like crash into Elmo, like full speed into Elmo. And I apologize.
Well, Timo Elmo, not real Elmo.
Right, exactly.
Times Square Elmo.
Exactly. And I run into him full speed.
Wow.
And I start swearing at him, like, watch where the F you're going, and what do you think you're doing? Not realizing I had run into Elmo. And then like Elmo reaches his hand to help me up, and is like, could not be more apologetic.
Did he ask you to tickle him?
He did not, thankfully. And it was a really like, I can be angry, but I can't carry this anger everywhere. I'm better at it. 12 years later, I'm not great at it. I'm still like, I still have moments where I'm like, why did that have to happen to me?
So two things. The why did it have to happen to me? Anyone who goes, it's a natural human thought. I don't consider myself a woe is me person. I did have some weird thoughts. I don't is this is this God getting back at me of bad things I've done in my past? Is this, for whatever things I've done bad to anyone else? Is this You can't think like that. Cancer happens to everybody. Cancer doesn't discriminate. You have to get that out of your head. The other piece is holding on to anger during treatment. And this was an interesting one for me. I tend to be There's moments of my personality that could harbor resentment, hold grudges. I strangely went through this metamorphosis during the time where I let a lot of that go. I had moments of clarity, which I've never really had before. I had moments of perspective. And I think a lot of that had to do with just time and place of being 46 at the time with kids that are out of diapers, that are one's a teenager and one's in elementary school. Of I need to follow this to the T and do everything the doctor says and be mentally best. And even my wife says to me, she's like, obviously there was moments she allowed me, we joke about it too. She allowed me 2 moments of complete breakdown where I literally lost my shit at a nuclear level where you just have nothing left in the tank and something will trigger you. And she let 2 of those go. And there was other moments where she held me accountable because she didn't want me to go backwards. But looking back on it now, I think I handled it well. Other people have said I've handled it well. And she, the most important person, said I handled it well. So how do I take that and not go backwards as who I am? Did you ever have those thoughts about how do I take what I've learned and went through and the parts that have made me better and not go backwards?
Yeah, I mean, just look. This is the best advice I can give, and this is something that has helped in my life and helps in others' lives. Is every 6 months or so, I have a check-in, and that check-in tells me each of my paths, and I evaluate. The check-in is not something that I do haphazard. It is in my calendar. I have a process. It is done. I hate using this word, but like pretty religiously. And what that does is it says to me, am I on the path I want to be on professionally? If not, what are the changes? And we build a workbook. I build a workbook to do it. Am I having the right relationship with my kids and my wife? Okay. Am I not? Am I? And so I've made significant changes in this check-in. I, as you said in the intro, I worked at the Wall Street Journal for 21 years, 21 and a half years. I'm not there because of that check-in. That check-in told me fundamentally, like, this was not working anymore and a change needed to happen. And I had a long relationship with a therapist. I no longer am with that therapist. She's been great. She's been terrific. She's been with her for many, many years.
Hmm.
Last year, I had some bad. Last year, I had some bad genetic testing, some genetic testing that was pretty scary.
Hmm.
I did not take it well. And I learned, okay, this, if I'm not going to take it that well and not be present and go through this, like, changes need to happen. And so for me, the problem is in the moments where your life is flashing red signs, make a change, you're not going to listen to those red signs. You're too emotional. You're too focused. You're too, apathy and just getting one foot in front of the other is human nature. If you have purposeful check-ins, it can it can enable you to look back and reflect on your weakest moment and ask yourself, can I make a meaningful change? It is hard, and I'm making it sound easier than it is. But it's what I strive and endeavor to do. And of the people I've talked to in this world over the past 18 months, this is a tried and true method to lead yourself to purposeful change that makes your life better.
I absolutely love that. And, you've written that survivorship isn't binary. It's not just healthy or cured. And I think about this concept a lot too, because the state of remission isn't permanent. It's just a status. And that for me is something I've had to wrap my head around. I am 2 scans post my initial remission. I have another one coming up April 2nd. And you give me a lot of food for thought there with using my actual scans as a check-in, not just medically, but also where I am mentally, physically, career wise, relationship wise, and use that momentum to say this is a stop sign. You're getting a physical test, and it's going to tell you that you're either go collect $200 or so that's one thing. So thank you. I'm gonna take that big piece to heart there, but I want to talk about the scan. So I'm still in the stage where I'm going every 3 months, and it's a very weird feeling where the lead up to it, like you have the lead up to it. There's the initial stress. I know in my heart and I know in the mass that I'm good. As long as it keeps getting smaller, I'm all on the right track. But there's always that fear. There's always the fear of it coming back. That's the part that haunts my dreams. That's the part that keeps me up at night. That's the part that keeps me thinking, what if? And you're only human to have those what if. There's no way you're going to get those thoughts out of your head. You can't. Unless the doctor said there's 100% chance you'll never have, it'll never come back again. Reoccurrence is not a 100% sure thing that it's not going to happen again. And I go through those downward spirals in my head, those rabbit holes of, okay, I don't want to go through chemo again, but I want to be here for my kids. Do I want to go down the road of experimental treatments and the costs and the journey of that? Did you have those thoughts too? Did that like early and your number of years past? First of all, how often do you go for scans now this far past?
So I don't go for scans for cancer anymore, but I have an autoimmune disorder that likely is a result of my chemotherapy that leads
Side
to
effect?
it's the way the doctor described it to me is the autoimmune disorder, because we're in open form, is something called scleroderma. It is basically my organs are shrinking in some level. Skin shrinks. It could hurt my lungs and heart. That autoimmune disorder is why I get regular scans. And I get an X-ray once a year and a CT every 2 or 3 years. And I will say this about scanxiety, which is very real.
Anxiety.
Which is very real and incurable.
There's no
There's
cure.
nothing.
No one can say anything to you.
And I would say 2015, 16, 17, or maybe 16, 17, 18, 17, 18, 19. It was like nothing to me. Didn't think about it. I went in, I left, everything was fine, like gold. It was like to me, it was no mental burden. The last 2 years, it's been brutal. It's like a bad vacation that I'm worrying about months ahead of time. I'm like updating my chart every 35 seconds.
My chart.
I'm like waiting for the call, like all of that stuff. And so I would say that if you find something that helps, hold on to that for dear life, knowing that 2 or 3 years, it may not help you as much. You're gonna have to try something in. I'm honestly, to be frank, I'm in a really bad anxiety moment. Like after last year's stuff, I think I'm fine, but like that has like reinvigorated that anxiety. And so my scan's actually next Wednesday. And so like I probably started thinking about it 2 weeks ago. I'd say I think about it a couple times a day.
You know what's interesting about that too? When you're going through treatment, you're in a routine. For me, it was every other week. It was blood test, chemo every Friday, blood like clockwork. So I kind of got into that routine, and I would really look forward to obviously the just blood work weeks and the chemo weeks. You go into your routine, and I had processes and rituals that I did with chemo. I had my little go bag. I had my gum. I was trying different things. I got lucky. I only threw up once during 12 chemo sessions, and my wife is completely vomit. She will vomit if she sees somebody vomit. And I was trying different things because one of the worst parts about chemo is the taste when they inject you, and the thought of it just is making me so sick, and the smell that when they inject it, you instantly taste it, and the taste of the AVD, especially the D, in my treatment was the best way to describe it. And the doctors left. It tasted like a burnt Nike Air Max. They're like, you're being very specific about the type of sneaker it is. I'm like, there's something about when I envision that Air Max burning and the taste of it, that's what I feel in my body. So I would try different things. I would try different types of gum, and then the gum would make me a little nauseous. And then one treatment, I think it was about treatment 8 or 9, and I documented everything. We'll talk about that in a moment before I want to get into the book and what you're working on. I decided to try Sour Patch Kids. And I remember it was like, I think it was late August, and I started eating them. And we're in the room, and I just started to sweat. And I look over at her, and I look at her, and I'm like, and my face turned green. And they give you, in the hospital, this barf bag. and I called it Shrek's condom because it was this giant, long green bag about this big. So I called it Shrek's condom. The nurses found that funny, and I just spewed chunks. And for me, that was it. Um, and you go through these rituals, and when you're done with the rituals after treatment, obviously there's a sigh of relief, but then you're reminded when you have to go back, and it becomes scarier.
Yeah, you're also on your own a lot more. Like when you're in treatment, you're seeing your doctor, you're seeing a nurse, you're seeing someone in the medical field with these like
They're on you.
check-ins. And then when you're a survivor, it's these years and months when there's nothing, and then all of a sudden it shows up. So it's just that it's like a pause and then speed, and then pause and then speed, and that
Exactly.
that screws with you a fair bit.
It does. So let's talk about after treatment. This is a part that nobody talks about here. And everyone celebrates when treatment ends, but that's when the questions really begin. And you alluded to this because you don't have those people around you. You're not being constantly check in. I almost felt a little bit of now what? Now I'm being thrown to the wolves. And we're not just talking physically. We're going to talk about rebuilding work relationships, personal relationships, the financial burdens, because that's when the bills start to hit. I don't know about you. I always blessed. My wife has great health care, but still I was burdened and dealing with a lot of financial things and the big what's next. So what's best practices of what's like how do you ground yourself after you get the all clear?
So it kind of depends. Like you can't tackle everything at once. And if you try to, you're gonna fail and be overwhelmed. Um, for me, the initial period of the sort of post treatment, my real focus was on money and on physical health, and so I spent a lot of time. Um, I I love my wife and my children. My third great love is probably Microsoft Excel. Um, and I built these spreadsheets because when you're in treatment and you're overwhelmed, it was tough to get a handle on what are the bills that are right, what are the bills that are wrong, what are the bills. I'm Jewish. I like a good negotiator. I love a good haggle.
Right. What could we
What can be lowered? And so, you know, to me that was important, and I keep those spreadsheets. I have two sheets I keep. One of my annual medical bills, so I know what's coming and what might be fightable, and then and those bills over time,
Mm.
so I can understand what maybe an outside bill I should make a call on. 60% Kaiser Permanente as a number that about 60% of the bills that you argue with get lowered.
That's another thing, folks. Remember this. And I'm in the process now. You can negotiate a lot, and also the bills that come a year and a half after something. Didn't I already pay this?
There's a bunch of that. There's also things that are illegal. So a good example is in New York State, it is illegal to have a out of network anesthesiologist without 24-hour heads up, giving you time to find an in-network one. It's illegal. They can't offer the bill. Many people get that bill.
No
If you
idea.
call the hospital, you say, "Hey, this is a bill you're not allowed to give," they will remove it. I have done that, and they remove the bill. But they're not often. I've found in the reporting, this does not happen because someone's a monster. Remember when you're getting a negotiation, the person on the other phone, the other on the
Good
phone,
job.
they did not give you the bill. They did
They
not.
didn't give you cancer.
They didn't give you cancer, and they weren't the one who checked off the form. They weren't there are these huge hospitals, huge processes. If you meant to hit code 4563 and hit 4564, it's a totally different thing. And now you're getting a $10,000 bill that should have been $200. If you ask questions and you give them the time to research and answer, often that numbers come down. There are also, especially if you're in a lower income bracket, there are so many ways hospitals are
So
willing
many
to help.
programs.
And
Yeah.
so take the time. I think in the end, I can't remember the numbers specifically. I'm gonna give you a rough bet. I think my cancer cost me about 18,000, and I think my initial bills were about 23,500.
That's it.
And that was work. Well, my wife worked at NYU and my care was at NYU. So like that was a big difference in cost because her insurance is provided through the hospital, which is able to.
Well, there's two things I want to talk about there. First and foremost, this is a big, big, big thing that I preach to everyone out there. And I didn't do this early on, and I probably would have handled my treatment a little bit differently. But you don't know what you don't know. And especially, I mean, you were lucky that your wife is in the field and able to help you navigate it. We didn't know a lot of these things, and we had to learn along the way. But one of the things that I learned, I wish I learned it sooner than later, but once I owned it, was to take ownership of your medical experience. Take ownership, take advocacy, can have agency of it, and really ask the right questions. Don't settle for things. Question everything, but really take ownership. And some people don't. They just go with the flow and they say whatever the doctors tell them to. And especially with the medical stuff too. I mean, I'm lucky. My wife's an attorney, so her firm had somebody, they had an internal advocate who helped us, navigate. My healthcare bill for the time during treatment in the last calendar year was $499,000. Each treatment, each chemo, because I also had immunotherapy also, was $33,000.
That's out of pocket?
No,
No.
that's
My
with the
my
trans-
my 23,000
was just out of pocket.
was just out of pocket.
Right.
The total cost I think was like 650 grand,
It's
something like that.
It's unbelievable.
The
Imagine
hospital stays
people that
would kill
can't,
me.
right? And one of the things I learned at Memorial Sloan Kettering, which is, God bless MSK, best in, like, they will work with you, they will negotiate. You could bring things down. They will work with you on payment terms. Ask the right questions, folks. So, in your book, I'm Alive, Now What? First of all, great title. It centers on surprises after treatment. What shocked you most? Was it money, career, identity, family plan? Like what shocked you most?
What shocked
We're at
me?
different stages in our life at the time.
Yeah. What shocked me most, and this is a general term, and I'll get into a couple specifics, was how many stop signs I never imagined. So there were so many things that I thought I could just do that I couldn't. And here's a couple good examples. One, after we found out we were having kids, I decided to go get some life insurance. 35 at the time, not too old, not too young. Completely rejected.
You were not getting any life insurance.
Nope, nobody. The websites say after cancer you can get life insurance.
It cost you a fortune.
No, I was
Couldn't get it all.
I was uninsurable. Nobody would even
No way.
price me a product. Now I could get universal indexed whole life. I could not buy term, so I could buy a product I did not want. What I wanted was a 20-year term, the most popular product in America. Nobody would price me. So that meant I had to change the way I thought about financial planning and change the way. Second thing is, there were a couple times I thought about leaving my job to do other things and work. And with the healthcare bills that potentially could have resulted, because at one point we left my wife's insurance to join my insurance, like becoming an entrepreneur was not a realistic thing given the likelihood of higher bills. And so that, like, healthcare having an impact on my profession,
Very important part.
very important part. Another good example is fertility. So in the end, actually, too much information. We did not use the sperm banking. I was able to recover physically.
You don't get a refund on that, do you?
You don't. I didn't. That was.
You can't bring it back to the store for a refund or a credit.
And it's an annual fee. So you
It's like
you
blood
pay
storage,
one.
the kids' blood storage, right? The
You-
cord blood. Yeah.
I owe them $1,000 a year, and so like I was
You could have
paying.
just kept that in your fridge, Jeff.
Yep. So that's $7,000 that I just like
cost of doing
burned.
business. It's a cost of doing business.
Exactly. That kind of money I could have bought like a really nice couch. But I found out that the way we were trying to conceive, we needed a specialist in fertility and all that stuff, and it was like not a more complicated process. And so each of these are just that so many times I'm 7, 8, 9 years after cancer, and it's like it still rears its ugly head. It still changes your path in some way. It's a really bad Marvel movie where my timeline has just like
Just
shifted a little
flashbacks.
bit. And I have to deal with the new timeline without my Infinity Stones.
I want to talk about that a little bit. The idea of careers also, and I've been an entrepreneur, self-employed for the last 9 years too. And there's times I think, hey, would it have been a lot easier if I was a W-2 employee and I'd be able to take like 6 months, FMLA or time off, and I couldn't, because the reality is I worked for myself and I still had to figure out how to make money because money wasn't growing on trees. And I was actually busier in my 7 months of treatment than I was the 7 months before work-wise. So I needed to figure out how to continue. I'm a recruiter by trade. I had to figure out how to deliver to my clients, how to continue to produce. And it kind of forced me to actually lean deeper on the technology in my space, which actually, in such a positive way, a total silver lining, it pushed me down this rabbit hole of utilizing the technology in my space where now I am a very well-versed, well-spoken practitioner of the tech within my field. And it's opened up new doors for me and new opportunities. So that's one of the silver linings for me, but not everyone has that. But the money thing was absolutely real. And as far as identity too, there's been moments too, I'm like, do I still want to go down this path? Do I still want to be doing it? And it affects everything. For me, another part was ambition, right? I want to talk about that for a moment. Did treatment shrink? How did it affect your ambition?
Yeah, the person I like talking to about this is a woman named Michelle Woodward. Michelle is based in D.C., who had worked for the Reagan administration, and she's now a career coach, largely for cancer survivors, and not you and me, CEOs. So if you are like very famous and very successful, you give Michelle a call when you get diagnosed, and she comes. And I was talking to her, and one of the things she talks about, which I love, is what she tells these very famous people and very successful people is, do not change the level of your ambition, even if you have to change the lane of your ambition. So if your ambition is to be world-class at something and cancer ruins your ability to be world-class at the thing you wanted, but there's still another lane, grab that lane with two holds. So there's many of the CEOs she talks to.
Unless you're Lance Armstrong.
Unless she's a little too on the nose for Lance. So like, one of the things she talks about, and I've really taken to heart, is you're not setting 20-year goals. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be in 6 months? And how are we going to get there? And be aggressively, harshly honest with yourself. So many of the CEOs she talks to, she has to say, look, you can't be CEO anymore. Being CEO of the largest, just not one of her clients, but one of the people I talked to for the book is a guy named Jim Weber. Jim is was the longtime CEO of Brooks Running. Jim's great. Jim was Buffett's right-hand man. He famously, Buffett was like, should we stop doing Brooks Running? And Jim was like, Jim was like, no, not only should we not get rid of this company as a part of Fruit of the Loom, I see our way to be the best running shoe in the world. And he built them in it. So he became, by the proxy of building Brooks, became a really close Buffett lieutenant. Jim got cancer 5 or 6 years ago. He had to have a very hard conversation. Jim cannot be CEO anymore. He has to sleep in the upright position. His real energy is maybe 1 or 2 days a week where he's full on.
You can't be responsible for all those people in those jobs.
And it's tough. And so he's now doing other things on consulting and helping other CEOs and other leaders and other visionaries. And he's getting real value at it, but it's a shifted ambition.
It's so interesting too. And I think that it all goes back to radical self-awareness. And you have those moments of radical self-awareness during treatment. And it's at different levels. It could be surface level, it could be certainly deep. And it's about, what can I do short-term in this moment? Am I pushing? I got a lot of that also. I don't know if you got that too. Adam, you're pushing yourself too much right now. You need to relax more. And I kept telling folks, I'm like, I can't. I'll relax when my body tells me to relax. Well, you're not giving yourself time to heal. It was a tough balance because as an entrepreneur, as a solo business owner, I needed to, if I don't kill, we don't eat.
I had an opposite problem. I think that, again, these are why everyone's different.
Everyone's different.
When I came out of it, my ambition was just to breathe. My ambition was not, I became very unambitious. I was like, look, I just want to get through the day. I just want to have a week where I'm feeling okay. I'm just going to do my job because it's paying me every 2 weeks.
Just getting through it.
I'm just going to get through it. And I'll feel better at some point. It's not going to be now. I remember the moment I could be ambitious again. My boss at the time, Steve, came to me and said, hey, do you feel up for a month in Hong Kong? Office in Hong Kong. There's some stuff we need to work on. They're not delivering exactly where we need to. We've lost some people. We just need someone there to kind of kick butt for a month and provide stability. Are you up for it? And I really think that trip was the most important professional trip of my life. What
was it about that?
On my own. So no support system, no wife, no other coworker. I knew like one or two people in the office, but I'm going into a cold situation. It's on my shoulders. I have a mandate. I have a directive in a country I'd been to once before, or city state rather, not country, and was asked to deliver. And it was a lot on my shoulders,
Right
and
after
I
treatment.
wondered if I could do it. And the first week was tough. The second week was better. And the third week, I remember just like it really kicking, it really moving and feeling myself in a way I hadn't felt before. And I remember coming back and saying to myself, okay, I can have ambition again. Like we're good to go.
It's an interesting one. Everyone's ambition changes. For me, my I was more upset that I had such momentum going before my diagnosis, and I hit a wall, and I had to stop so many things, so many opportunities, and the outpouring, the outreach from the community were great. And there's people saying, "Hey, when you come back, these will be here waiting for you." A lot of those weren't, and I knew it was a lot of lip service because people want to tell you, how you feel. But I used that to fire me up, and I kept on saying, "I'm going to be like the phoenix. I'm going to rise from this afterwards." And I personally have come back stronger, but so many have not. I want to dig into the book for a little bit here. I'm alive now. What? Love the title. It's just straight up on that one. Listen, you're a career journalist. You've been writing your entire life, but specifically with this book, Jeff, what did you learn about yourself during the process of writing this book? We're in New York City. You could hear those sirens going
You can
on
hear
in
the
the background
sirens.
there.
I mean, I can tell you the two big things I learned. One is good and one is bad. And the good one is that
The good one is that we're going to pause for a moment here. This commercial break is brought to you by Times Square Studios. Welcome to Times Square Studios. We want to thank them, and we'll drop the link in the comments there. And thanks to our friends at Fountain for the last couple of years of supporting our show. Now back to Jeff, talking about what did he learn in the process of writing this book.
sure, but good.
Impromptu commercial break.
Yeah, impromptu commercial break. I love it. So my most important thing that I learned in writing this book about myself
Good time.
was the value of storytelling. One of the things that I did after cancer, I wrote one essay in the journal because I felt like I had to. But in the 13 or 14 years since, I ran away from it. I was like, I don't want to be defined by this cancer. I want to be defined by my family and my success. And I'll be honest, I didn't do volunteering, didn't raise money, wasn't in the Boston Marathon. I wanted to be as far removed from it as possible. And in writing, I learned that it enabled me to take ownership of it in a way that I needed to process. I learned about the value of writing, the value of jotting down your thoughts and the perspective. I'm glad I waited this long. I don't think I would have had the perspective to do it correctly. I think I would have. It was probably still too raw, still too emotional to give the perspective. Look, one of the big thing for me for this book and where I saw the value here is there are a lot of memoirs, and memoirs are great, but memoirs don't hold your hand enough, and they don't say, here are the actual things you can do. So throughout this book,
They're not tactical.
They're not tactical. And if they are, they're about that person's tactics. They're not a broad level of tactics. And so what I try to do with this book, each chapter, there are 9 chapters, your money, your career, physical health, mental health, family planning, caregiving, purpose, the business of advice, all these people who want to give you advice. I take 1 or 2 or 3 people and I navigate their story with experts saying, here is what people in that situation should do. Are you thinking about genetic testing? Here are the types of genetic testing you would think about taking.
Super important.
And why you want to do it. Are you worried about your medical bills? Here's how to really examine what bills are worth fighting, what bills are not, and how. I'm sure you're learning this now. Your medical bills are not just higher your year of diagnosis. They're higher forever.
Oh my God.
And from that
never
moment forward,
end.
they're just going to be higher. There are things you can do. There's a woman at Washington University in St. Louis who's built this spectacular database where you can put in your cancer, your location, and your insurance, and it'll show you a trajectory of what to expect over the coming years, what screens are now preventative, so they cost more.
They're not going to be covered.
All that stuff. Her database is a good thing. And so the purpose of this book and what I learned is I'm glad I took that time because it enabled me to, have a little bit of emotion, but a little more unemotionally say, here's what's happening to us. Here's what's collectively happening to survivors 5, 10, 15, 20 years out of cancer. And here are the things that people who've dedicated their lives to helping you have found that can help.
Super, super beneficial and important. I did something interesting during treatment, and no, I didn't write a book. I decided to document my journey, and I used to love to write, and I still really do enjoy writing and crafting and creating content, and this is my creative outlet now. But I wanted to document it, so I downloaded this app called Super Whisper, and before and after every treatment, I talked into it, and I just dictated my notes, and then I dropped into my notes section. Now I have a running dialogue of pretty much before and after every session I went through. And I go back and I look at it, and it has my thoughts real time in the moment there. And something I urge to everybody out there: journaling. People think journaling's corny, whatever. And I'm not a big fan of journaling until right now. It was it enabled me, Jeff, to have a time capsule of my thoughts to go back to think about what I went through during. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, what that's going to turn into. Maybe it'll eventually be the podcast memoirs. Who knows? But I urge everyone out there. It's almost cathartic.
It is. It's what I will say is, white men of a certain age don't want to go to therapy. Okay, like it's just not like you talk to anyone who's in the medical field, they're like, yeah. As soon as they are over 50 and they're a white man, like, and I tell them that go to a therapist, they're like, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I think a wider audience is people who are like, I don't want to write and I don't want to jot things down. I would just say, give it a shot. And there are so many ways. There's regular journaling. Boston College has this great program run by a guy named Ben Rogers and it's this more of an interactive game, like the Oregon Trail, that enables you to go through whatever situation you've been into, that it turns into a narrative story where it's a hero's journey, where you are the hero, you answer these questions, you go through this process. All of a sudden, you've written your story and you didn't even know you were doing it. There are great writing classes and seminars, one at Memorial Sloan Kettering that I love. One who runs it up in upstate New York, she's terrific. Suleika Jaoud, who's wrote the New York Times bestseller on her own cancer memoir. Her latest book is a journaling guide. I don't know your way into it. These are 4 or 5 different options for you, but give one of them a shot. It might be useful. I'm a writer for a living. It's what I do. And I did not do this for 14 years. And I found value in doing it at this moment. If I was that reticent to do it, imagine other people.
Better now than never, better late than never. Yeah, I mean, the process for me was great because I could go back to it. I could share stories there. So, Jeff, you've interviewed hundreds, thousands of incredible folks around the world. You've had the opportunity to travel and have incredible conversations with folks worldly exposed. As someone who's walked the same road as me, going through this, what's one question that you've asked yourself that you would ask me?
I would ask you, are you getting the support you need? And you need to be harsh to yourself on that. And so wherever you are on the journey, whether it's yourself a year out or myself 14 years out, you should be asking yourself, are you getting the support you need? And it's not a condemnation of the support you're getting. It's not a condemnation of a partner or a doctor or anything. But what we've been through is not nothing. It is, and I think that to put it in the rearview mirror, we often downplay it. Ask yourself, are you getting what you need?
I want to dissect this question here for a moment because you said something really interesting. It's not over. You have the receipts, you have the battle wounds, and I've shared this before with others. I feel like I have a bit of cancer imposter syndrome. I am lucky, and I say this to put into context, I'm lucky that I had a Hodgkin's lymphoma because it's a 95% cure rate after 5 years. I remember sitting there in the waiting room, looking around at people. I'm sure you had this moment too. Where you look at people around you and like, that person's fucked. That person's not making it through. They look really bad. And I know I may look bad temporarily right now, but I'm going to be okay. And I had those moments a lot during treatment. And I was lucky, except for one particular day. At MSK, I was lucky. I had treatment out in Long Island. They have an incredible satellite facility there. I never had to go to the city. And they separated adult treatment from children's treatment. And I remember thinking one day, I'm like, oh, it's great. I don't have to see sick, cancer, because that's literally the worst thing. And then one day I'm in chemo and I'm going through treatment, and I could walk out to go to the bathroom, and I come around the corner, and they had rooms, but they also had a couple of like kind of like stall enclave areas. And I come around the corner, and literally just like that in front of me is maybe a 10-year-old, I think it was a boy, going through treatment. And I just kind of lost my shit. And I was like, yeah, I'm going through it. They're going through it, but that looks a lot worse than what I'm going through. And I kind of still have this guilt afterwards a little bit that I didn't go through it as bad as somebody else. And I remember someone smacking the shit out of me, metaphorically, and saying, no, you went through this. You dealt with this, and you have to own it. And don't let anyone take that away from you in a good way. But you also have to take care of yourself afterwards, because once you get that remission, it's not over. You still have that trauma, and you need to have that support in those people around you, because it's not.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not funny at all. You're gonna feel. It's like anything in life. You've got to be calm when others are fearful, and fearful when others are calm. There are gonna be moments in your life when you are shaken to your core because of what you went through. I remember. I mean, he's just an actor. Not to belittle him, but when Black Panther passed away, I cried for like hours. Cancer. We were about the same age.
Yeah.
I remember when he passed. I really it hit me in a way you wouldn't expect. I didn't know him. I loved his movies, but we didn't have any relationship, and it really tore me. And at that moment, I was fearful, and others were calm, and it felt personal, even though it wasn't. That's not the moment to reevaluate. Are you getting the support you need? At that moment, there's nothing you can do. It's a week later, 2 weeks later, when you're feeling better, to ask you those questions. And if cancer does anything, it enables you to remind yourself to have regular check-ins with yourself.
Are you grateful for the person you are now after going through this? Do you feel like you're a better person? You can't go back and change things, but if cancer never happened, would you be who you are right now, Jeff?
If cancer didn't happen, I wouldn't be who I am. I think it's okay. It's great to have all these emotions and all these conversations. Like, you should be asking yourself. In fact, I have a friend, actually the guy I was at the bar with when I ran into Elmo. He got cancer 3 years after I did. And he's famously one of those guys, good New Yorker, who's like, so do you think you were going to die? Like, would ask the question. I'm sitting in the hospital.
Right.
Is this really the time to ask it? But he would ask those direct questions. You need to ask those direct questions to yourself. So here's the real answer for those. One, I'm a very different person because I had cancer. I am absolutely 100% not happy that I had cancer. Those two things can live together.
Exclusive.
Am I a better person? I don't know. Who knows what I would
I still think I'm the same asshole I was before. Maybe a little bit more caring and a little bit more sensitive. Maybe a little bit more patient and understanding.
But I have no idea what man I would have become. Like, that's the thing. Is like it fundamentally changed who I am in such a meaningful way that I can't say I'm better for worse. I'm just different. There's a woman.
That's it. Different.
You're just different. And there's a
changed.
There's a woman in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I love Stacey Carpenter. Stacey, before cancer, was a high-rising executive at AIG. She got cancer. We were actually cancer buddies, getting treatment at the same time. And now she's a Episcopal priest in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Two completely different lives. And everything in her life is that fully 180'd from those moments. And you may not be that drastic. It may not be that obvious, but it is that palpable. Your life is that different in so many ways.
Oh, it's so true. For me, my silver linings, presence with my kids, because you appreciate the time. and I know you didn't have kids at the time, but I'm sure there was moments of just being more aware of the good things in life and being more appreciative and taking that extra step. And for me, I was so go, go, go. And I'm still always on my phone. And my wife yells at me all the time, sitting there. But the times that I'm present, just to be more present, take that extra second, realizing how fast life moves. When I first got my diagnosis and they said 6 months of chemo, it's an eternity. And when it's over, it's like that. So my concept of time has changed, my appreciation. What was the biggest silver lining for you?
I guess not faking it anymore. And when I think that this is a word that's like a buzzword these days, which is authentic, like bring your authenticity and authentic take. And it's so overused now, it's lost meaning. But for the last 10 years or so, I don't know why I'm looking at my watch like it's a calendar. For the last 10 years or so, I've been a manager of people. So I've been people's boss. And that part of my life, I have been through people's own treatment. I've sat them in a hospital room while someone's going through their own chemo, or someone's father or mother passed away, or something. And I can sit with them. I can be quiet. Where's that great story? The rabbit listened, which is a great just like I can sit there. I can be quiet. I can be a resource for them and not my typical personality, which is to not shut up. And I think cancer taught me that, to be in someone's space and supportive, because that's what I valued most in my own periods of darkness. So yeah, that would probably be my take.
I take a few of those things away also, where I learned how to be better at giving back for all those that were there for me during my time. You also learn who your real friends are, and it's not always your family, and not my family, but in generally speaking, love you guys. But sometimes it's not your family that's closer for you; it's your friends. You learn, and you learn the people. You talk about advice, and everyone's got advice or stories, but you learn who's really there for you. There's a lot of clarity around. You also learn to close your circle of friends. You don't need it to be so big. Learn to kind of bring it in and tighten it up. And that time, isn't finite. Like, there's one thing it taught me, that time isn't promised. And I try to be more present. So, Jeff, in closing here, when you look back on your life before treatment, after treatment, where you are now, obviously later on in life, family and kids, Geoff Rogow, what keeps you focused? What keeps you centered? What is your North Star in life?
It's interesting that you bring up North Star, something I get into repeatedly in the book. My North Star is a willingness to change my North Star. And so the way I'm built and the way I'm driven is that there are things I like to accomplish. And if I focus on the thing I want in 10 years, I'm never going to get there. And so for me, my North Star, and maybe this is my tolerance for bullshit is lowered. My North Star changes every time I evaluate. There are things I want to do. There are things that really drive me for the next 3 to 6 months. I'm going to focus on them. When we've got through them, we're going to go build some others. They rhyme with each other. They're thematically important. When I left my job a year ago, my North Star was to write this book and to spend really purposeful time with my children. Kids are 4 and 7 now. They're 3 and 6. It was perfect ages to just pick up every day, drop off every day, be at everything, say yes to everything. Are we doing, book reading for the kids on Friday? I'll be there. I got to do field trips. I went to medieval times, had an awesome time. I highly recommend
Dinner and tournament.
Dinner and a tournament with like 50 6-year-olds screaming. And so the North Stars, to me, they morph, and I write them down. Here's what I want to accomplish in this period of time. I'm not built to do these more theoretical North Stars. I think a lot of people are like, well, my North Star is like always being true to myself. I'm not smart enough to pull that off. And so for me, it's very practical. North Stars. There's a philosopher in the early 20th century named Paul Tillich. And he talks about theology, but his focus is like, what is your ultimate concern? And he speaks about it in God. Like no matter what you're doing in your life, your ultimate concern should be your relationship with God. I'm not smart enough to have these broad ultimate concerns. So I have these very short-term focuses on like, this is my North Star. This is my concern. I'm going to focus it on this. And at some point, we're going to evaluate it and change it. What is it for you?
Well, it's interesting you said that it's changed. For me, it's as simple as being the best example I could be for my kids. And for me, it really means leaving this world a better place than I found it. And that's through my children. I want them to be better, more successful, happier than me in every single way. And if I could give them that life, if I could empower that, and it's really changed my focus and priorities to be there for them. If cancer taught me anything, it's to make sure that I'm here, that I stay healthy, that I stay sharp, that I stay successful, and that my wife and I lead by example and teach them how to survive and be their best in this absolutely fucked up, crazy world that we live in.
Is your definition of success changing? Like that did change dramatically for me.
It's so funny too, because if anyone has listened to the show, my closing questions would be, how do you define success today? And I've asked this question probably a couple hundred times, and only one or two people have said it's money. But my definition of how success has changed. And it's about being happy inside. Because if I'm happy inside, and it sounds so selfish, that it comes down to the analogy of, if I learn one thing during cancer treatment, is I need to put the oxygen mask on myself first. I need to be here for them. I need to be the happiest. I need to be mentally in a good place. Because if I'm happy, if I'm not happy, everyone feels it, everyone knows it, and you're not happy around me. So how do I create the best opportunities for me to be happy and manifest that? Because then it's going to emulate, and people around me are going to be feeling good. And that's what it's all about. Jeff, we could talk for forever here, but you got to get back to Bluey and the BBC over there. Lots of responsibilities over there. Jeff, I want to thank you so much for joining me. Everyone, you could please check out After Treatment. It's after-treatment.com. We're going to link it up in the show notes. When's the book coming out? We're recording this on the 10th day of March. When's the book coming out?
Looks like it's going to come out actually a year from now. It's going to be in March of next year. There are a bunch of, this is going to be the year of the cancer book.
The year of the cancer book.
And so we decided, instead of going into the storm, we're going to be the caboose of that year. Isn't the caboose the strongest, right?
The caboose pushes everything forward.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't pull it ahead.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's coming out March of 2027. You can pre-order the book and check out more at after-treatment.com/the-book. We will link it up in the comments here. Jeff, I want to thank you so much for your time, your generosity, your openness, and sharing your wisdom. What you're doing with After Treatment is absolutely incredible for everyone out there. It's a tremendous resource. I get it every week. I make sure that I read it. There's so many valuable tips. Even if you scan it. Listen, I always say this too. Everyone has a few minutes of alone time during the day. We know when we read those newsletters, it's a good time to read it. And everyone out there, thank you. 500 episodes. 500 episodes. I should know by now to talk into the mic, right? Thanks, Alan. 500 episodes in. This is the thing professionally I'm the most proud of, because for me it's consistency, that I set my mind to something, and I've never done something for 7 years straight, except be a pain in the ass to my wife, and that's been almost 16 years. But thank you for everyone who's believed in me, all the guests, everyone out there. It means the world to me. I wouldn't have this show without you. And you know where to find out more? thepozcast.com. Follow us on other social media channels. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another good episode of the POZcast. Take care, everybody.